I love a good creature feature, and a new horror is now available on demand that uses twists and then practical effects to craft the story. A Creature Was Stirring has both unique and familiar premises, so will it be something that you're going to want to see? A nurse taking care of her daughter's mysterious affliction struggles to hide her secrets when uninvited strangers take shelter in her house during a lethal blizzard. So the stars Chrissy Metz and Annalise Besso, where Metz is the mom taking care of her daughter who's suffering from this weird condition. Now, there's also a blizzard where they live, and during the height of the whiteout, two strangers break into their home in search of shelter. Now, from there, craziness ensues as the mom works to keep her daughter's condition hidden from those strangers. Now, the coloring and the lighting in this, I think they're extremely harsh, despite the film taking place inside a home that has electricity and lights. There are a lot of reds, greens, and blues that are used, sometimes exclusively, which it's meant to create an ominous setting, but it typically works against the story because it's not freaky, just difficult to see some of what's going on. Now, throughout this, we also get to see vague, dark figures skulking in the shadows. I mean, we barely just get glimpses, but we see enough to begin to build mental images of what the things we saw might be. We're progressively shown more as the story goes along, but then we're rewarded with excellently ridiculous and gnarly practical effects. I mean, this is where the movie shines the most. This is a creature feature, and the design is not only off putting, but it's also highly creative and wrong. Now, I appreciate that we're not shown the creature all at once, that it takes time through the movie to unveil what's going on. And this built up some suspense, but also added a much needed level of creepiness. Now, Chrissy Metz is awesome in this because she's matter of fact and blunt, which I thought was funny. And then she's got this dark past that is only hinted at, making her mysterious and also a bit sketchy. Annalise Basso, who plays the daughter, she's convincing as a young adult who's very inquisitive about her mom's past, but also riding that line between accepting and then fed up with her condition. And they also have an antagonistic dynamic, which I think is believable and it fits well for the story, crafting more conflict once the strangers actually break into their house looking for shelter. And this is when most of the craziness kicks in. The duo that breaks in are annoying and grating, one being adult and the other a religious zealot intent on pushing their views on their hosts. Hosts, right? I mean, they broke in. Anyway, interwoven through the storyline is some dark humor, which works for the most part, using sarcasm to call out absurdities or mindsets. Metz gets to deliver a lot of this, and she's got good timing and delivery. There's a good momentum when craziness is beginning. The setting, it's isolated thanks to the blizzard, reducing the area in which to hide or escape to the confines of the house. I mean, this adds some excitement because of the chase, and the low lighting, it enhances the eerie feeling. But it also works against itself at times because, like I said before, it's difficult to see certain things. Now, the dialogue with the two strangers, it didn't totally work for me. The lines don't feel like natural conversation a lot at a time, which then creates choppy or unbelievable exchanges. They have an odd dynamic as well. They're supposed to be brother and sister, but almost feel like a couple at points. It's just kind of weird. Now, the storytelling as a whole was abrupt and stunted, mainly due to the editing that broke up the scenes in ways that just weren't completely cohesive. Now, as problematic as some of the dialogue and the acting were, I was fully loving the creature and the practical effects. This delivered the right amount of absurdity with some wonderful gore, and because of the creature design, some of the violence gets to be very creative. And then we get to the end of the movie, and I think many are going to be able to predict what happens, but I still enjoyed the story content and the theme. It's very dark and sad, leaving us with an unsettled feeling. But the execution, it just about ruined everything. There are some editing techniques utilized that were completely out of place for everything else we'd seen. The way the ending is put together is lazy and even visually displeasing, weakening the story and the conclusion. It's almost like the filmmakers put all of their effort in for the rest of the movie, and then when they got to editing the end, they just kind of gave up and slapped on some terrible effects and went on their way. I mean, it was such a visually disappointing way to end what had come before. So overall, some of A Creature Was Stirring works, especially in the areas of practical effects, gore, and creature design. Chrissy Metz is great as an enigmatic and overprotective mother, helping to amp up unease and anxiety while also providing some blunt humor, with Annalise Basso convincingly portraying an inquisitive and somewhat rebellious daughter. The trajectory of the narrative may be predictable, but the storyline is enjoyably dark. Unfortunately, though, the conclusion is mangled by ridiculously cheap and lazy editing, breaking any discomfort that had been created. This has more potential than it was able to realize, creating an uneven watching experience. There's a little bit of sex, no nudity, some profanity, and some bloody gore. I give A Creature Was Stirring 2.5 out of 5 couches. So, what's one of your favorite creature features? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.